have like a time lapse of Justin's irritation.
Exactly, dude. You can see it if you go through the pictures quick. Hello, I'm Justin.
I'm Mark,
We're the J-Pops.
and we are attempting parenting in Japan.
Today, we are going to cover new cars, parental leave, and maternity photos. But first, let's get into the updates. Take it away, Mark.
All right, so Moe had her, I want to say, 24-week checkup. Right now, as of this recording, she's in her 25th week. And so a couple days ago, she went and got that 24-week checkup done. And so far, everything's good. On average, they say a baby should weigh between, I think they said 700 grams and a kilogram. And right now, or 900 grams. And right now, our baby weighs 850 grams.
All right.
So he's going to be a big boy.
Yeah.
In addition, they do the measurements when they do the ultrasound. So you'll see them like pause the screen, and then the doctor will take a cursor and kind of measure the circumference of the head and the length of the limbs and stuff. And I guess this week she said the legs are longer than average for babies in Japan.
Have you heard, and this is just some like broad speculation on my point, but obviously average height in a Western country like the US is slightly taller than average height in Japan. Average weight in America is going to be way, way more than the average weight in Japan, which has its own reasons. But I think, the people are just generally, it's generally true to say that they're bigger. So I wonder if that is evident even at like, say, 30 weeks into a pregnancy or something, if the baby's already showing signs of being a bit bigger.
I mean, it is in our baby's case.
Yeah.
Mine and Moe's. Have you seen your numbers?
I haven't heard the comparison. I'll have to get back to everyone on this. We know the numbers, but I don't know if they're within the range or at the high end of the range or anything like that.
I've done some searching for like what like a Japanese baby weight should be at these weeks, and it's really hard to find anything. So I don't have an answer. All I have is the standard, like what the doctor says when they're in the ultrasound. And so that's all I can go by.
Yeah, I've known a couple of kids to be born who were, half Japanese and half some other race, who were in like the 99th percentile and this and that. But, I've known kids like that in the US too, who's just, a white baby born to white parents who happen to be in the 99th percentile for something. So, I'm not really sure how that shakes out, but it would be worth looking into.
I've always kind of thought like there seems to be a trend of babies and kids getting bigger through the generations, either to do with more nutrients in food or whatnot. And maybe it's just like a thing like Japan's nutrients in food is getting so good, like kids are just getting bigger.
Yeah, it could be. I've heard this stat like tossed around that in the generation after World War II, I think it was, that the average height went up by 6 inches because
Crazy.
Yeah, the country, and this is just, everybody will have to fact check me on that, but it's just in Japan that, the World War II era was like really lean years and everything was going toward the war effort. And then when peacetime came around, things were just a bit freer and easier, and everybody got more to eat, and then everybody grew to their full height. And so some of the, the old stereotype of Japanese people being short was actually more connected to nutrition in the old days.
Right.
But it's still, there are differences in average height still, of course, but it used to be a lot more pronounced, and it was just strictly a nutrition thing. But I could be wildly wrong. That's just what I've heard on a few occasions.
Well, I'll believe you until somebody proves it wrong.
Okay, cool. Everybody,
what about
call me out on Twitter. Shame.
Right. What about Ayumi? How's she doing?
It's all smooth sailing. One sort of stat, I guess, is that she told me just today that she's there's a kind of a normal amount of weight to gain when you're pregnant, and she is not even in that range. She's like below that range.
Oh, really?
and it's and everything's fine. Every time we go to get a an ultrasound or she has an appointment, then everything related to the baby is fine. All the fluid levels are good and measurements are all good and in the standard range. It's just her weight is quite a bit below what is average to be gained at this point.
Is that just for this week, or has that been steadily like below?
I guess it's been the case the entire time, but that's the most up to date info. And yeah, so that's kind of surprising. But
Hmm.
we've noticed that when we take a photo or something, sometimes you can't even tell that she's pregnant. Like if
Oh,
she's got like
really?
a dark top on or something, and it's just not so noticeable. So we've been trying to
Oh,
like find good angles and stuff to actually show off the bump and whatnot.
I
I
gotcha.
mean, she's definitely pregnant, but you can't see it like in her face or anything like that.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to be showing much in her face. I've uh I've heard the opposite from Moe actually
Oh yeah.
when it about the weight thing. She throughout the whole she tracks it every day, and then she has that app that shows where she should be.
Hmm.
And basically the entire pregnancy she's been like just above where that average should be.
Hmm.
Only by like I don't know, I think it's like half a kilogram or something. It's not much.
Yeah.
But I wonder if they factor in like just the average Japan BMI for that
Mm.
system, and then just they can't really tailor it to individuals so much.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that on the specific numbers, I think Ayumi's 3 or 4 kilograms below the lowest number on the range.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah,
pretty low then.
yeah. So she's kind of an outlier, but I don't know what it is. She doesn't do anything in particular, like trying to eat healthy or doing any like special exercises or anything. It's just how it's shaken out. And
Gotcha.
my take on it was if you're not feeling hungry for a certain thing, and if the doctor says everything looks fine at your appointments, then we're a okay. And
Yeah,
may just be some kind of outlier. I don't know.
yeah, they both could be.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the update. She's at 31 weeks, and oh yeah, baby still hasn't flipped. We're still in a bit of a breech position, but there's still weeks yet to go that the baby can flip. I think a friend of mine told me that her baby flipped at about 36 weeks or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there is time yet.
Nice.
Cool. Well, those are the updates. It's segment time, buddy.
All right, you've got a bunch to talk about this week, don't you?
Yeah, loads of segments. First off, we got that car on lockdown. Heck yeah.
Nice.
And I'm just going to pull back the curtain for everybody. Mark and I agreed to record today at 3 p.m. So I think this afternoon, we were both kind of running around like, oh, I got that 3 p.m. thing. And then I thought, oh, I better grab a lunch. Went to a restaurant. Who did I run into? Mark and his wife.
Yep.
So
We
it
had the
was,
same thought.
yeah, it was me and Yumi ran into Mark and Moe, and then the whole time we were like, "Oh, we got to get out of here. We got to meet up virtually to record the podcast."
Yeah,
So anyway, yeah, we were out and about, and you saw the new car in person not 2 hours ago.
I did. I'm
And
very impressed with it too.
thank you, sir. We went with the Honda Freed. It was the much ballyhooed Honda Freed. We talked about it extensively a few episodes ago, and worth every penny, my friend.
Yeah,
Best
it looks
decision
like
I've ever made. Honda Freed.
yeah, it looks like a really really nice car.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, part of it is just that we haven't had anything new ever. I think our previous car was a 2008. We bought it when it was already 5 years old, so we've never had any like luxurious featureful car before. And this is changing all that. It's just insane. Things like
Yeah.
Bluetooth connection, I didn't know were possible. Like, it won't let you slam into the car in front of you as a safety feature. It won't let you veer out of your lane as a safety feature. It's got
Does it
6
auto brake?
seats. It will, yeah. You can turn it on and
Oh,
off, but it's got
that's
the
crazy.
auto brake. Loads of stuff on this car. It's just amazing. And you can feel the weight of it. We talked about this a few days ago. Would it be
Hmm.
better in the snow to have the K car that's nimble or the big van? And you rightly said that you just want weight on your side. You just want
Yeah.
to push down through the snow and have traction. And
Yep.
it's a totally different experience. It's like driving a tank around compared to the K car.
Yeah,
So
you
we've had
feel much
snow
more
and it's been
confident.
good. Absolutely, yeah. So that's all been good. Can't recommend it enough. And what I learned at the dealership, this was interesting. They brought the paperwork out, and we were going over it, like the title and everything. And I noticed in katakana when it said like the type of car, it said station wagon.
Oh, really?
So that car is, according to Honda, a station wagon. So when
Whoa.
you see the Freed driving around town, which is obviously a minivan, know that you're actually looking at a tall station wagon, apparently.
Huh. What
So
is the classification then?
I don't know. I don't know what it takes to be a station wagon, but this is just obviously a minivan. It's got sliding door on both sides. It's quite
Yeah.
tall. It's got 3 rows of seats. And I asked the guy, uh, as my wife was, doing some real important paperwork. I asked the salesman at Honda, "So this is a station wagon. What's the Honda van? Does Honda have a van out there?" And he was like, "Ah, yeah. Wait just a minute. I'll get a brochure." Comes back with the brochure, and it's for the N van, which is the Honda K car van.
What?
They have the N series, there's the
Yeah,
N1, the N slash, the N box, and then there's the N van, which is like the most vanny of the N series. And I was like, okay, but that's a K car. Don't you have like a van or a minivan? And he was like, nope, Honda does not make a van. We have no minivan. If you want the van, it's the N van, or we have this station wagon, which is the Freed.
that's
So
crazy.
it absolutely blew my mind. Like I was thinking minivan all the way just on looks, but apparently I'm not driving a minivan. Who knew?
Well, we do now.
Yeah, but so it's been cool. Another interesting thing about Japan really is like how things are very professional, and then I don't know if you've ever seen this, but well, you must have seen it loads of times when you buy something at a shop and it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but say you got some new glasses or something, then the staff would follow you out to the parking lot
Oh,
and
yeah.
then sort of bow to you as your car drives away, or even walk into the street and stop the traffic and help you leave and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it happens in shops where you wouldn't necessarily expect it. I mean, in America, it doesn't happen ever at all.
No.
So then any example of it in Japan is shocking to us, I think. But I've definitely seen it. You'll pass by on the road, you'll see a lot of staff members in suits and ties bowing to someone who's driving out of the parking lot. So obviously, with a car purchase, that's going to be huge. They're
Yeah.
going to roll out the red carpet. And when we were finalizing the paperwork, we were seated inside the dealership at a little table there, and a procession of 5 people came out, and each one of them came over and handed me their business card and gave me like a very formal thank you. And I've never been in the juggling business card scenario before.
Right.
You know the business card rules, right?
I have
Generally.
no idea, actually.
Oh yeah. The classic Japanese thing is you have to take it with 2 hands. You can't take a business card with one hand. But
Oh, oops.
you know, whoops. Mark flashes back over the last decade of his life, offending everyone. But you have to grab it with like both hands on by the corners and take it. And then the next step is you can't just offhandedly place it somewhere. You have to look at it and you have to read it, like you're appreciating the card and absorbing the information.
This kind of reminds me of American Psycho, the movie.
It,
I don't know if you
yeah,
remember it when Bateman
absolutely.
takes the cards and he's just like drooling over it.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
he's like,
basically, you have to act like that.
you have to, yeah. The American Psycho business card scene is the bare minimum that you can do in Japan. It's like
Okay.
what's expected. And you grab it with both hands, and then even after you've read it and absorbed it, at that point you're still not allowed to like tuck it into a file, or don't put it in your pocket. That's the worst because then it would get all crinkly. But you have to take it and then put it on the table and like centered up in the corner of the table for your reference for sort of like the rest of the proceedings. So
Are
the
these
business
people
card.
still going to stay around the table with you?
Well, in this situation, no.
Okay.
But I think in another business situation, you might be sitting down to a meeting where you're going to talk to them for an hour, and then
Oh,
I
okay.
get it's probably more or less just a sign of respect. I guess it's practical in some sense because you can refer back to their position or their name or whatever, but
Right.
more just you're respecting them and respecting their card by like displaying it on the table next to you, like you're not just offhandedly tucking it away somewhere.
I get it. That
So
makes sense.
yeah, I've been aware of that since I've been here, but I've never gotten 5 cards back to back to back to back to back like that before, and it was
Right.
an intense challenge for me. So I took each one double-handed, and then I absorbed it, and then I laid it on the table, and then I got the next one, did the same thing, and I made a nice little pattern of cards in the corner, and I bowed to everyone and gave them a proper "arigato gozaimashita" kind of a sentence. And yeah, so that was kind of interesting. But we got like the head of the dealership, we got another manager, we got a customer service rep, we got the guy who sold us the thing, we got the staff at the front
Wow.
desk. They all came over. They handed us a box of cookies. Everybody gave us a card, and it was like a really big procession to
Man,
get the car.
cookies. We only get tissue.
What? You got
I
ripped
guess
off, man.
we go to bad dealerships.
Yeah, bad dealerships, man. You got to step your game up, get those cookies.
That's right.
They were flaunting some beer right at the entrance, and I thought we might get some beer, but I guess they saw my wife was pregnant, and they thought best give them the cookies.
Maybe there's like a tier of like how much you spent, you get the better gift.
Yeah, you
We
need to
never
drop
spend that
like
much, so we're just tissue level.
yeah, you need to step up your car game a little bit. You probably have to spend like 40 large to get the beer or
I
something. We
guess
were
so.
just like a mid-tier cookie family. But anyway, so that was fun, and the car is wonderful. It's unbelievable. It's a whole new world when you jump into something like that technologically different than what you're used to.
Hmm.
I was thinking about this today. I was wearing a sweatshirt, and I was like, fundamentally, there's no difference in this sweatshirt and a sweatshirt produced in 1970. It's the same basic thing.
Yeah.
But if you bought a car with 1970 features, you would be disgusted by that car. It would be awful,
Yeah.
compared to what's available on the market.
Yeah. The standards have definitely been raised, and I think legally the standards have been raised.
Exactly. That 1970 car is not even roadworthy anymore.
Maybe not, especially not in Japan.
But I've always heard that's the thing about fashion, is that fashion's the hardest industry because there's no advancements left to be made. It's like,
Yeah.
what can we dupe people into believing is good this year?
Yeah.
That's the whole fashion game. But cars, like, there's so many advancements that actually do something for you, and it's just impressive to drive around with them.
Yeah.
So, big fan. Tried out the baby seats, and cars these days have the little anchor points, and you can
True.
really lock in a base, and then your baby seat, the car seat rather, locks into that base. Tried it all out. It all works. So the Freed is passing all the tests. It's good
That's
stuff.
good to hear. That's good to hear, because I'm thinking about getting the same car seat as you. So I'm glad to hear
Yeah.
it works
Do,
well and everything is functioning as it should.
do both of your vehicles have the little anchor points?
They do. Yeah.
That must be standard these days, huh?
My truck is old. Um, God, how old is my truck? 2005, I think,
Oh yeah, and it's got them.
and it's still got them. So at least from the aughts up, they're standard.
That's good stuff. I think our child seat can be belted in. It's got all the attachments and whatnot to lock down onto a seat belt and be safe that way.
Yours comes with the base, and then the car seat itself detaches. But if
Hmm.
you're just taking it into a car without the base, you can just hook that up with the belt, right?
I think so. I
I
know
think.
the base as well can be belted in.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't know if the seat can be belted. I haven't looked into it that much, but I think it's versatile.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the Joy car seats, like Joie. I don't know how you
Is that
say
how
it.
you say it?
I would just say Joy. I don't know.
I've been saying
Joie.
Joey.
Joey could be good. Isn't that how the French spell the word joy? And in that case, it's joie, if I may
Jouet.
be a breathy Frenchman for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
We're pissing off our French listener right now.
Oh, God, no. The whole France sector is crumbling. Oh, that's not good. All right. Well, we'll have to make amends to them. Also on Twitter, look for our French language apology, everybody.
Yep.
But that's all for the new car update. Very happy with the Freed. And
Nice.
let's talk about parental leave. I think this is the big meaty topic today.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested how this is working out, because you guys are the first to take it, and Ayumi's on it, right?
Yeah, as of this recording, she had her last day of work just a couple of days ago. So
Nice.
she is out for 2022. She is
Very
done
nice.
working. So that's good news. Is Moe planning to take the same amount of leave? Is she going to do the full year?
Yeah, yeah, we're definitely planning to and take that.
Yeah.
I think it's like a month or month and a half before the actual pregnancy.
Yeah. And then on my end, I work for a Japanese company, which of course needs to follow Japanese laws, and the parental leave extends to the fathers. So, what is available to the mothers in Japan is essentially in the same way available to the fathers. So, I'll be doing that too, but a little bit offset from my wife's starting and ending date. Mine will be a bit pushed back from that, but yeah, I'll also do the 1 year parental leave. And have you, you're still waiting, right, to get to the bottom of it with your company?
Yeah, I haven't reached out yet because ours is still kind of 3 months out. So I was going to wait till the
Hmm.
new year. But from my understanding is in America, you get 12 weeks. And I think my company gives another few weeks on top of that. So it should be about 4 months that I'll get.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Um, well, the Japanese system is, it's interesting. I think we've said before, it's considered to be the most generous in the world
Yeah.
is in terms of childcare leave. And I chalk all that up to Japan's primary concern being the falling birth rate, and
Right.
then sort of any policy they can enact to encourage people to have kids. I think they tend to enact it, and this is one of those. Give a generous child care leave. So I guess just the nuts and bolts of it are that you're looking at a year fundamentally, and the way the year breaks down is that the first 6 months are paid at 67% of your salary. There are obviously caps on this. So if you're making 50 million a year, they're not going to pay you two-thirds of
Right.
that. But within the realm of what like 99% of people are making. So for the first 6 months, you get 67% of your salary. And then for the second 6 months, you drop down to 50% of your salary, and then your 1 year is up and you're back to work. So you get a two-thirds followed by a half. And in the case of the mother, this is where it differentiates a little bit. And in Japanese, they tend to call it mama leave and papa leave.
Right.
So all my paperwork has mama or papa next to all these graphs and charts and things. Um, the mother can leave, as you were saying, a bit before, obviously, the due date. You want to have
Hmm.
that time leading up to the due date to be off. And this is what depends on the type of job you have. Like if you're a civil servant versus if you work in just a regular company or something, or if your company has like, slightly more generous, like, lead up to the birth leave, then you can get up to like say 8 weeks or something. It could be more like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, something in that range.
Gotcha.
So the mother can get off say a month and a half on average ahead of time, and then as of the due date, that's what starts your 1 year timer. So the
Right.
mother would then get say like a month and a half or 2 months or something ahead of the due date, and then she gets the 1 year additional. And the papa leave only kicks in on the due date. So you can't, get out any earlier. If the baby happens to be born early, you can do all the paperwork to be off starting on the due date, and then you can just leave. You'd have to explain this to everyone at your company, but you are allowed to leave, say, baby's born a month early. You can go at that time. You just have to redo all your paperwork, and your company just has to handle it.
Gotcha.
So it's not totally like, even though you filled out the paperwork, it's not off the table to then change it after the fact.
That's good.
And father is exactly the same. It's the 6 months at 67%, 6 months at 50%. And you get, the 1 year. So what's interesting is the father can start this at any point. It doesn't have to be the due date of the pregnancy. It doesn't have to start on that day. You
Oh,
could delay it for a couple of months. And if you do that, then you still get the 1 year, and in that way, you've got more cumulative childcare time. Say the mother's
yeah.
there for the first 1 year of the child's life, and then you delay a bit, and then you could have a parent home with the child until, a year and 2 months, a year and 3 months. You can
Could you
offset it
delay
in
it
that
a
way.
year?
I think the limit, oh, did I just say 3 months? The limit is 2 months of delay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So at
That does help
max,
though.
yeah, so you could get that kind of extended window there. So at max, the father could start taking off when the kid's 2 months old and then go to a year, 2 months. And you get 14 months of coverage then away from, the work, and you're able to take care of the kids. You can
Nice.
also extend those times if you can't find childcare. So
Mm,
imagine you're in an area and all of the daycares are full, then that's kind of an extenuating circumstance. You could, at that point, you have to supply daycare rejection letters
damn.
and apply for extended time. But once you've done that and saying, like, we want this daycare, they won't have us, then you can take off additional months. But
I
that you're
know.
really milking it then, you're going for it.
I know Tokyo's pretty cutthroat when it comes to daycares and stuff. I've heard a lot of people complain who have kids over there that it's really hard to get into one, and once you do, like, you never leave.
Yeah, I'm
But
sure.
do you know if Kanazawa is similar?
It's been my experience that there is daycare available in Kanazawa, but we've only looked in our one area. I don't know if, like, downtown, if you had a house right in the middle of everything, if it would be as easy.
Right.
We're a little bit on the edge of town, so it's fine here, and we're not even contemplating, like, extending the time because we know that the daycare will be there for us.
Right.
So yeah,
Well, that's
we are not looking into it in that way. But that's how it shakes out with the parental leave.
nice.
Another couple of things is, some people might think, like, well, it's great to have the 1 year, but I don't know if I can survive on 2/3 of my salary and then half of my salary, for that
Yeah.
long, if you're a bit more paycheck to paycheck. But there are some other things to consider, like during that time, your health insurance payments are suspended.
Oh, are they?
So, yeah, so it's not just the 2/3 half. It's like the 2/3 and the half plus, you're getting subsidies from the government for the child, him or herself, and things like healthcare are suspended. So it's actually quite a lot better than the 67 and the 50%.
Wow, for both of you.
I think so, yeah. For anyone who's on childcare leave, I think they suspend that sort of thing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This is going
So,
to be really complicated when I go to look into it then.
yes, it will be.
Oh, so much bureaucracy.
Yeah. Luckily, we have Japanese speaking wives and they can take care of it. So, arigato gozaimasu to our Japanese speaking wives who have to wade through
Yeah.
all this red tape.
Yeah.
Lucky
Hmm.
for us, I should say. But yeah, that's how that goes. And it's very generous. And I think the thing that I always ask about these things is, like, there has to be an upper limit to this sort of thing. Like, you obviously can't say, like, oh, childcare leave, we'll give you 18 years. Like, no society can exist
Right.
if they were offering you, like, that extensive amount of time. And then there are places like in the US where I don't know if I think nothing is federally guaranteed in the United States.
Yeah, I don't
So
think
you
so.
have to be either in a good state or you have to work for a good company that has a nice policy. And if neither of those things are true, then you could be kind of high and dry. I remember working when I worked, part-time job in Kentucky many, many years ago. Somebody would be pregnant, and then there was no system for like leaving at a certain time before
Right.
the due date. And there would be, I worked in a supermarket. There would be a pregnant employee who's in their 8th month and arguing to try and get a stool to sit at instead of standing at the cash register,
Yeah.
and going back and forth about that kind of thing. So there are no guarantees. It's the Wild West in a lot of places. And so that's obviously undesirable. But on the flip side, it's like 1 year is pretty extensive.
A year
And
sounds like a long time, but I know when it comes to like a newborn that year is going to go by pretty quick.
yeah, it definitely will. And I am more than happy to take Japan up on the offer, and I will do the 1 year. But Japan is the outlier in this case. No other country's doing it. Well, there may be other countries that are, offering something similar. I've just always heard Japan's kind of the best. So I assume there's no other like combination of like the money and the discounts and the subsidies and the time and all that together appears to be the best. So we're way in outlier territory over here.
Yeah.
And I wonder, I mean, this is like obviously policy level stuff that's impossible to come down on one side or the other of, but I feel like it's even too generous. Like if they shaded it back and said 8 months, I would be like, oh, 8 months, awesome. I would be very enthusiastic about that.
Let's hope they
So
never listen to this podcast.
yeah, let's hope that this doesn't make it up the ranks of the diet. Uh, Maybe we'll
uh,
get diet members later in our run. But
God, I
anyway,
hope not.
yeah. So yeah, do you feel this way? Maybe it's just the American in me saying like, "Get back to work."
I
But
mean, yeah, from the American standpoint, like I definitely think like the amount of time they give,
mhm.
but at the same time, like they reduce your benefits so much that you're almost dying to go back to work after that 6 months for a lot of people,
Yeah, it'll be
especially
nice
when
to
it
get
goes
them.
down to 50%. Like, I don't know many people, especially in Japan's income, who could
Mhm.
survive on that.
Yeah, if you're in Tokyo as well and you're just
Yeah,
getting by on your expensive apartment, then it's not
yeah,
really an option.
yeah. And it's not like they pay great for a lot of jobs here. So I think the average income in Japan is like would be the equivalent of like 40,000 a year,
Mhm.
and then to cut that in half would not be sustainable, and then add another kid or add another mouth to feed onto that. So
Yeah. So I guess a lot of people are priced out of the equation.
yeah,
And
I think that's why they do it. So they think like, all right, well, we'll drop it to 50%, but we'll still give them another 6 months and hope those people just willingly go back to work.
yeah, yeah. And we've talked about it before, but Japan, like allegedly, I've read this in articles in the past couple of years. Japanese men take up Japan on this parental leave offer at a rate of 7%. So
Yeah.
7% of fathers actually make use of this leave. And it's a little bit of, it's another thing that I thought, like, well, if only 7% of people are taking them up on it, maybe that's how the system survives.
Mm,
Because if that number jumped to 100, maybe it would suddenly become unsustainable. Like we can't lose this many employees for this amount of time and pay them this much in benefits.
yeah.
Maybe that's untenable. But it's just the fact that nobody actually does it. They can keep it on the books as like a nice, attractive thing that they don't often have to make good on.
Yeah. And yeah,
So,
you're definitely an outlier in that you're willing to take the full year.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
for
know. I
sure.
don't know many Japanese fathers who've. Well, I don't know any who've taken a full year off. I know a few of them who've taken some time off, but I've never heard of them taking a full year.
Yeah, you got to be uniquely selfish to get in there and use it.
So American.
Yeah, you got to be American. That's the 7%. The 7% are all Americans. Um, yeah, so that's been kind of rattling around in my mind. It's kind of like it reminds me of like, open container laws in Japan. They don't exist. You can get in a car with an open beer and you can drink the beer as a passenger, obviously.
Right.
You can drink the beer going down the road. In America, you can't have an open container like that
Right.
in the car. I guess that's all 50 states. I'm not sure. But as far as I know, you're not allowed to have the open container. So it's one of those things that in Japan, it hasn't been a problem, apparently. And so, or it hasn't been enough of a problem to then legislate about. And like problems could arise. It could be that everyone goes out and takes advantage of this and pushes it to the max. And then, you get into this territory of you see more drunk drivers because there are all these open containers and people feel a bit looser about it or something. I don't think that would happen, but it's just that with the child care leave thing, it's that it's not an issue. People just naturally aren't doing it, and therefore we can leave the law as is.
Yeah,
So I
makes
think
sense.
I think that's kind of how it goes. I'm grateful for it, and I do feel like sometimes as a foreign person in Japan, you're kind of working in the margins of systems because the system is designed for, say, 7% of
Right.
dads who want to take them up on it, and then we come in like, oh, there's a system that's advantageous to me. Yeah, for sure, I'll do it. It's not even a question, and
Yeah.
it's not really designed for us. but then we can get in there and make use of it. But anyhow, I am very grateful for it, and will definitely be using it. And I had a friend tell me, he was like, "Yeah, and don't forget that it's parental leave because you have to do parenting. You will be busy the entire time
Yeah.
with taking care of your kids. So it is like there are responsibilities that come along with it for sure."
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so that's the parental leave wrap up. I think my wife's due date is February 25th, so as of now I'm slated to take off February 25th and get the 1 year. That'll be good. And as a teacher, that slots in perfectly with the Japanese semester system.
Yeah, isn't that close to end of the year?
Yeah, just after it. So, school in Japan starts April 1st or thereabouts, sometime in the first week of April. And school at a college would wrap up sort of toward the end of January, maybe the early days of February.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll be able to get the grades in, duck out. Whole year goes by, nobody even notices I was gone, and then I slide right back in 2023. So
That's
I'm
the
looking
hope.
forward to that. Yeah, let's hope. Fingers crossed.
Nice.
All right, so parental leave done. How about one more topic? This is maternity photos. Have you and Moe contemplated or set a date for getting some maternity photos professionally taken?
We contemplated it, but we have nothing set up, and no. I mean, I think Moe has a slight interest in doing it only because I know she knows that Ayumi was planning on it and did it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no. How
We
did yours go?
Oh yeah, we got that under our belts about a week ago. We
Nice.
went down. We found a guy a little bit. He wasn't in the yellow pages. He was. You had to go. Do the yellow pages still exist?
In Japan.
Yeah, and yeah. It's very analog here. Um, and yeah, we found a guy who's a little bit off the beaten path, and he was like a youngish, cool guy who has a lot of equipment, and he built his house to have a photo studio with a separate entrance and everything, and
Nice.
that's kind of his deal. Um, and it was pretty cool. But I don't know if this is Japan wide. My only experience really, I guess I've been in a few, photo studios for pictures for this and that over the years, but mostly I think back to when I was a kid and you had picture day or family photos or whatever it was.
Right.
And the photographer would walk up to you and with both hands adjust your head and then like grab your chin and push it over to the side and say like tilt, okay, this is perfect, do not move, and then walk back to the camera and take your photo. And even like pull on your clothes and straighten your jacket and stuff so that you're getting the best shot at it.
Right.
So um I am like I want a photographer who's a take charge kind of person and who just molds me and tells me exactly what to do.
Gotcha.
And this guy was not that guy. This guy was a little bit loose, a little bit like dancing around with the camera, just snapping shots and like, oh, that looks good. Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. Oh, very nice. Great, great, great. And it's like, yeah, but do I look like an idiot? Like, is my
He's
head
like,
like,
he's got the camera. He's like, oh, talk dirty. All right. All right.
yeah,
Growl.
exactly. Yeah. Make me love it. Now make me hate it. And he's just like snapping photos like wild. And I think we're going to get by though, because on volume, there should be some good ones in there. He took, I don't know how many hundreds of photos.
Nice.
And then he gave us access to all the data. But it was just, I was thinking, how sometimes you take a photo and you're like, oh yeah, my head's at this crazy angle and I didn't know because I don't know what it looks like, or I'm standing and I'm leaning like 5 degrees in some crazy direction.
Hmm.
And he was not telling us that
Oh,
whatsoever, and that annoyed me a lot.
interesting.
We were there for like an hour and a half, and I was like, this is all just wasted money if we look stupid. We're
Right.
not going to be able to use these photos. So then like my frustration and my wanting to take charge got the better of me. And I just kind of went into like okay, just a minute. And then I would like sort of like they did some of a Yumi by herself, and I would go up and I would sort of try to move her hair around, like fix her hair, get a little fly away, knock that down. Or if the sleeve was a bit twisted or bunched up, like, okay, good. And then I would back off and then I would go up and kind of like move a Yumi around. Or if I was in the photo, I would like, he would take it, and then I would lean like a degree, and he would take the next one, and I would lean another degree, and he would take it. And I was actively trying to cover all of the bases, like tilting my head this way a little, tilting my head that way a little, leaning,
You
and
have like
oh,
a time
smile.
lapse of Justin's irritation.
Exactly, dude. You can look at it. You can see it if you go through the pictures quick. It's like hand like
Uh,
goes like in the pocket, thumb out, fingers out, on the hip. Like, I'm trying every possible combination, hoping that
nice,
one of them is good.
nice,
And this was the chaos of the photo session. And
interesting.
it's one of those awkward things because you don't want to be a full on like you don't want to have a heart to heart with the guy. You want to keep it light, and
Yeah,
just get the
supposed to
photos
be
done.
fun.
Yeah, but you don't wanna just fire off and say, like, "Come on, dude, like, change your whole personality now, please." You can't really do that. So, that was a bit of an odd one. But anyway, I think we got enough photos out of it in the end.
Mm,
And I don't know if other photographers this guy was a bit cool, and so maybe that's why he wasn't in there and being so intricate or, like, taking such control of it.
interesting. I don't know. I don't have much experience with photographers. I did a video shoot once at a hotel in Kanazawa, and the
That
video
sounds like
crew.
pornography. Go ahead.
Nope, nope, nope.
Okay. I'll, agree to disagree. Fine.
No, so the video crew that was doing that shoot, I think, was equally hands off in telling I guess, the actors at that point what to do and what not to do. They were just kind of like, act normal, is kind of
Mhm,
how they said it. And we're just
mhm.
like, what the fuck? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And it was like in this like hotel suite, and there's like a kitchen, and I just start like picking up a knife like I'm cutting something, and it was all very, very weird.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I understand your frustration.
yeah, I don't wanna drag all of Japanese media through the mud here, but I have a good friend who, makes things in a professional capacity. He'll film commercials and things of that nature. And, he was filming this has been 10 years ago now, but he was filming commercials in Thailand.
Hmm.
And he's American, but he had a job to do in Thailand. So he likes Japan and he knows a few people in Japan. So on that Thailand job, he would stop off in Tokyo for like a week of vacation on his way back to the United States. And so he's like the guy that I know who's the most professionally in that world. And
Okay.
I remember talking to him, and he was saying like, "Wow, Japanese television is mind blowing. Like
Huh.
how every show sort of has like picture in picture, this face of a reaction, this face of a
Oh,
reaction. Then there's text at the bottom, text at the top, text on the side. Everything's animated,
dude.
and
Yeah.
then there's no difference in the lighting of the foreground and the background. It's like, yeah, make the background as eye-catching as you possibly can and as bright and colorful.
Yeah.
And then you've got someone who you're supposed to be watching standing in front of that who's also bright and colorful and in focus. Everything's in focus and bright and trying to catch your attention. And like
Yeah.
the average show in the evening is like walking through a pachinko parlor. It's just, full on sensory overload to me.
It's not just Japanese TV though. It's Japanese, I think, media in general. If you go to any website, like anytime anybody's going to Rakuten, they're like, "What am I buying?"
Yeah,
And
they really pack a lot into everything.
yeah,
Whether it's the screen of the website, you'll see 30 different things instead of the one thing that you should be looking at. And I mean, obviously it works, and it's probably just something that we're not attuned to based on how we were raised. Um, I feel like that's one of those things that the market would sort out. Like if some company did a better website and it worked better, then everyone would do it, and it would happen. You know,
yeah. I
maybe.
don't know. I don't know. I feel. Do you know? You know Marie Kondo, right?
Yeah.
I think I talked to you about this before. She has a U.S. YouTube page and a Japanese YouTube page, and they are drastically different.
Hmm.
Like the thumbnails they use for each one in each country is completely opposite the other one. Like the
Yeah.
American or like the Western one is just kind of clean. There's just like a title in the screen. There's really nothing going on with the image. And then the Japanese one is just color overload, bubbly letters, Marie Kondo's face just like lit up somehow. And it's
Hmm.
just kind of, they're drastically different. So,
Yeah. It's definitely a more is more philosophy
yeah.
in Japan on the entertainment. And maybe the theory is that it's just eye catching.
Yeah.
And it's maybe the same concept as like whatever you bought, we'll put it in a little box and put that in a bag and put that bag in another bag and tape it up and here you go and that sort of thing. It's just we're showing you as much as we possibly can to
So what
show
you're
that we put in
saying
the
is
effort.
they're trying to put TV shows into plastic wrap for you,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's their
exactly.
way
Into
of doing it. Okay.
colorful wrap for sure. And maybe that's what's going on. But yeah, I think in the US they want it more controlled, more like I want you to look at the thing I want you to look at,
Right.
and so they'll gear everything in that way. Japan is just like here's everything, everybody, and they just max it all out, and
Yeah.
it's quite in your face.
Yeah.
But there are deep cultural reasons for this, I'm sure that I don't know about.
Maybe. I think we kind of got off topic there because we were talking about a photographer doing wedding photos, and somehow we started complaining about Japanese media.
Yeah, we're man,
We're
this is
stepping on Bobby Judo's toes a little bit, I
early.
think.
Yeah, I was gonna say with our opinionated rants, we're going to get picked up by the Fox News podcasting outlet, whatever that is. And we're going to get on, Sirius Radio or something. We're going to have
That would
our
be
own,
great.
like, yeah, we can rant about stuff. It'd be wonderful. Well, I think that's done it for our segments. And we've got my question for you is, as usual, I believe you are the questioner today.
I do. I do have a question for you today. It's kind of a two-part question. What are you most concerned about and least concerned about having a baby in Japan?
Good question. For me, the immediate concern is how cold and drafty and ill-suited my house is for human life. And so you've got to bring a young baby, and they're known to be temperamental young babies.
Yes, they
They
are.
cry
Heat
about
sensitive.
things. They need to be comfortable. And so it's like if it's just absolutely freezing in my house, my wife and I can deal with it. Like we lay in bed and we see our breath, like it's that kind of situation. But then the baby, I feel like things do need to be comfortable. So that's my big worry is that we won't be able to find the balance in the house. Like you've got the air conditioner, which then dries out the air. If you want
Right.
it warm, you're going to have a sore throat all the time. And then, like, are we just compounding problems by bringing a baby into this crazy, like, climate uncontrolled chaos that we have here in the house. So initially, right out of the gate, that's my big concern that this baby's always going to be too cold, always going to be too hot, air is going to be too dry, and but that's Japanese living in a 60-year-old house. That's how it
Mm.
goes. So that's big concern number one for me. I
Yeah,
mean,
that is.
beyond the ones that go without saying, like health and that sort of thing. But how about you? Do you have a number one concern?
I think my number one concern is getting English proficiency good.
Hmm.
um, just
For yourself, you mean?
for myself, yeah. Being able to talk and continue a podcast. No, just there's a lot of fear. Like you keep hearing some horror stories where people are like, "Yeah, I started talking to my kid in Japanese, and now they only talk to me in Japanese,"
Mhm,
or they prefer to talk to Japanese, so every time I talk to them, they just speak to me in Japanese, and
mhm.
so that's kind of my only concern right now.
Yeah. Hopefully, our own like sort of lack of ability could come into our favor in this one because there will be moments when the child at 5 wants something and it's like, man, I just can't understand you. You're gonna have to meet me halfway on this thing. So
Yeah,
that might force their hand a little bit to keep exercising the language.
yeah, I think that's what will happen
Yeah.
because I don't see my Japanese improving very much.
Yeah. Yeah. That's oh, that is a brick wall for sure. But I think it'll get there. I mean, there's a lot of foreign community, which this will be years in the future, and coronavirus will be somewhat in the rearview mirror. We'll have totally different viruses that we're thinking about at that time,
Right,
but maybe society will be a bit more open, and then I think the foreign kids tend to hang out, and foreign parents would tend to hang out to make those kids hang out. But then I guess they're bilingual anyway. They could just default to Japanese in that case. So that's no
right.
guarantee. But I think that generally, as time goes by and things open up a bit, there will be more interaction with other English speakers available to the kids. So hopefully that'll work.
Yeah, I hope so.
Uh, but yeah, I was thinking about it in a much darker way. What if, what if I just pass away? 50-50
Oh,
chance of that any given day. What if I'm just gone? What if I'm
I
out of
think
the
about
picture?
that all the time. You always hear a
Yeah.
story about somebody who's like 38, 37, who just passed away, and you're like, I'm already past that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I know I'm not healthy or like good at anything. like, like nobody ever says like, "Oh, strong as an ox." That guy. So, um, yeah, that's a daily concern. But then there wouldn't be that pressure. Like, there's nobody in the house who just doesn't understand when I speak Japanese for the kid.
Right.
And then I'm thinking like, how would this kid communicate with my parents and brothers and sisters going
Mm,
forward? There'd have to be a lot of emphasis put on English in that case.
yeah, for
So
sure.
if nothing else, we have to remain alive to get the kid up to speed on the language, and then we can, drift off, say 8-9 years from now. That's the goal.
You've got a
Um,
hard out.
yeah, yeah, I've got a hard out, 8-year hard out. Got that. Well, what about the thing you're not worried about? It's one of those like it's like asking about a negative. It's hard for me to think of something I'm not
Yeah.
worried about because I'm
I
not
guess
worried about it, so
what are
I'm not
you
thinking about
excited about then? Not
it.
least concerned, but excited.
Ooh, good question. I really admire my sister who has a child who's 1 year and 2 months, 1 year and 3 months or something.
Okay.
And my sister's got I don't know, animals in the house, a dog and a cat or two. And so this kid's like, always mixing it up with these animals. My sister will take the kid over to the grandparents, to the other grandparents.
Hmm.
She wanted to go to a festival, like a music festival, when the kid was about one, thereabouts, maybe even a bit before the kid turned one. And she went and she spent a week at this music festival. And I think that is the healthiest thing for the child to then sort of get used to this grandparent for days at a time, get used to that grandparent,
Yeah.
have the dogs, have the cats, and just like get all this exposure to all the types of interaction that you can have.
Yeah.
And every time I've never met this child because of coronavirus, I haven't been able to travel back. But every time I see this kid in videos or a chat or whatever, he's the most well-adjusted little boy, and he's cool with everybody and doesn't have separation anxiety, and he's just like such a great kid. And I think it's because my sister has the confidence to
Hmm.
sort of, and oftentimes a parent would also want to be there 24 hours a day, but she it's not like she's being dismissive or flippant or anything either. She said it's like, she agonizes over it, but she does feel that it's good to give the kid time with the grandparents and so on, like,
Yeah.
for a few days here and there. And I feel like that's such a good thing. So I'm looking forward to trying to get my kid out in the world and having him mix it up, from day one.
Nice.
And something I want to do and something I want to see the kid react to and then hopefully get better at as time goes by, um, because I think it just seems healthy. Seems like a good way to start off your life to get used to that kind of thing.
I think that's almost harder in Japan though, where typically, at least from my understanding, like extended family don't watch kids as much as they do in America.
Yeah, I don't think it is as normal. I mean, there are more multi-generation households, which is a bit
Yeah.
of a different thing. But yeah, there's certainly not a babysitting culture here, and
No, not
it's
at
a bit
all.
harder to get away. But
Yeah. Do you
you can
think
make it happen.
Ayumi's? I was gonna ask. Do you think Ayumi's parents will watch the baby at some point?
Yeah, I think they are all about it. I think they're
Oh,
gung
okay.
ho for it. Yeah, and
Even like overnights and stuff.
it remains to be seen, but I bet they would. My wife's mother is like very excited about the whole thing, and
Nice.
she's been looking forward to grandkids for like a decade. We've been married for 11 years, so she's like from the very beginning. She's always been hoping for the
She's
grandkids.
like, about time, you two.
Yeah, exactly. She was probably a little nervous, like, ooh, it's
Nice.
getting a bit.
I think that's a good situation then, because
Yeah.
I've got friends in America who their kids have like a standing night at the grandparents' house. I think it's like once a
Mm,
month or something. They're like,
yeah.
okay, grandma, grandpa time.
That
And
kind of stuff has to be good.
yeah,
You
it's good
get
for
like a
everyone.
and the kid gets a different spin on like what a kind of authority figure can be in their life, and just the subtle ways in which life will be different at someone else's house, and the different rules, and a different way to do things. It's got to expand your mind a little bit and just get you comfortable with
Yeah.
getting out of your routine.
Do you know if staying the night at friends' houses is a thing in Japan?
I think it happens. I've heard of my wife is she has a good core group of friends from her childhood, and I'll see photos sometimes of them, doing a from her childhood, like
Hmm,
pictures of a sleepover or something. So I don't think it's maybe as common as the U.S., but I know it's a thing for sure.
that's good.
So that's another little opportunity there. But
Hmm.
yeah, I've always thought it would be nice for someone in America, like I've got a niece and a nephew now who are just babies, but in the future, if they wanted to send me one of those niece or nephew and just say, like, yeah, you're going to live in Japan for a month, go over. And I would love to take a kid like that and, like just mix it up.
Man, that's a big responsibility.
Yeah, I would take it. It would be so crazy, and it would be like so mind blowing for the kid.
For sure.
So I'm all about that kind of thing. Ship the kids out, give them a little something else to do, and I think it's healthy. So yeah, that's my something I'm looking forward to. Do you have a thing you're looking forward to most, or something
It,
you're not anxious about that other people are?
yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just in general just excited to have a kid, regardless of Japan or America. So I think that's my
Yeah,
answer ultimately is just come on out already.
yeah, you've got a million changes to look forward to, so
Yeah.
no sense in getting overly excited about any one of those because there'll be another one hot on its heels.
Right.
Um, I've got one more concrete thing that I'm not anxious about,
Not
and
anxious. Okay.
yeah, and I might be signing my own death warrant with this one, but
Okay.
it's a lot of people say like, "Oh, you won't believe the amount of sleep that you're not getting." Like when
Oh,
you realize, "Well, I've got 2 hours of sleep and I just got to trudge through this day," and then it's like, "Oh, I woke up 6 times last night," and that sort of thing.
yeah.
I'm a night owl, and I'm like, "Oh, I get an excuse to like get up at 4 and go downstairs. Like that'll be fun." And I'm just really looking forward to it. Uh, we
Hmm.
have the experience. We were partying it up. I
Yep.
think we can reveal,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just get every single night. I get a second wind about midnight to 1 a.m. and I'm just max energy. That's my high. That's my peak of the day. It's like 1
Yeah.
a.m. I'm
It
like,
was
let's
almost like
go.
you
Let's watch a
turned
movie.
it was almost like you turned a switch. Like we were in the
Yeah,
middle of a board game. We were all sitting around the table and then Justin's like, "I'm going to grab another beer. All right, let's keep going."
yeah,
And I'm just like, "Holy crap, it's 1 o'clock. This guy's like,
yeah.
did I give him caffeine?"
Yeah. Let's light this candle. But I don't know what it is. I can be exhausted all day and then I'm even winding down at night and then like 1 a.m. hits and I'm like, no, 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 there's more to do. And it just kicks on. So I'm just like, I don't know, I'm predisposed to be nocturnal or something. And I feel like that's right up my alley. If
Yeah,
there's kid to take care of at night, I mean, I could probably get through like 2 nights in a row of it and then I'll crash absolutely and have the horrible experience.
maybe.
But I've always been the type to just never want to go to sleep and stay up through the night, and so I think it might suit me to have the kid to take care of while I'm doing that.
Yeah, I'm not a night owl, but I'm a very short sleeper. I think on
Hmm.
average I get about 5.5 hours a night.
Oh yeah,
And only occasionally, like maybe every other day, will I take a nap during the day. So I usually don't sleep that much, and I'm typically up twice a night anyway. So I'm
yeah,
I'm not concerned in the slightest about losing sleep. I say this now,
yeah,
and it's probably gonna come back and bite me later.
yeah. We will regret this absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm sure of it.
yeah,
But now it's looking rosy to me.
yeah, me too.
Well, let's get to our Japanese of the day.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear about your update.
Yeah, Japanese of the day today is not a word, but it's revisiting the JLPT, which we complained about here 2 or 3 episodes back. I can't remember, but I
Two
personally had the
and three
worst.
episodes back.
Yeah, probably it's its own segment at this point. I had the worst experience conceivable with the JLPT, I mean, that's overstating it, but it was pretty bad and it was kind of inexcusable, I think. So I wanted to make an official complaint. Something about the JLPT is if you want to complain, they don't accept emails for that purpose. You have to call.
They want to
And
hear your voice.
yeah, exactly. And I don't know what that means in terms of calling up and speaking English because they're not like on the hook to understand your English. They're the
Right.
JLPT, like
Right.
they're specifically Japanese speakers. And furthermore, like, do they have somebody for Vietnamese, somebody for Korean? Like, most of the people taking this test are not English speakers, but from another Southeastern Asian country.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they need to or if they feel obligated to take calls in all these various languages. So I wrote out my complaint in letter form, and then I handed that over to my wife to read it to get the points one by one, and then she called and complained in Japanese. And she
Interesting.
was on the phone with them for 40 minutes, she
Wow.
tells me, and she put them through their paces and said it was inexcusable. I mean, the long and short of it was we were in like an arena sized space, and the audio was from these big PA speakers everywhere, and it was just echoey and horrible and impossible to understand.
Right.
And that was not just me saying that, but I heard it from other people as well. And to me, they failed. Like, I didn't
Right.
fail the JLPT, the JLPT failed me, is
Right.
what happened on this one. And they didn't put together an adequate test. It's biased. I mean, you can't just offer it in a way like, oh yeah, at that center they could understand the listening, at this center they couldn't, and so you don't get a fair test out of it. And my wife explained all this to them, and then they said, well, you should have, or your husband should have complained at the time, which is obviously a nonsense argument.
Yeah.
Um, and my wife explained this to them as well. One, he can't speak Japanese. That's why he's taking the JLPT
Right.
at like an intermediate level. So, first of all, he doesn't recognize the moment when you tell them complain at this moment if you have a question, because I don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
So, just I couldn't do it. And then, secondly, um, if I had complained at the time, what do they do to address my complaint? My complaint is this is not intelligible. So then do they stop the test for 600 people and move us all to the like nice little classrooms that they had on reserve?
Right.
Obviously not. It can't happen. So my complaint wouldn't have been met with anything at the time, which is what I thought at the time, because it did cross my mind to raise my hand and say, "What are you doing?" But then I realized they can't come back with anything constructive.
Yeah.
And furthermore, if you raise your hand and get a proctor over, it's not like the listening stops. So then you're fully giving up on it because you're going to miss a stretch of questions as you're trying to explain yourself to this proctor. So I thought, like, well, I'll just try to figure it out, try to soldier through. And it was all for naught. It was nothing. It was a bad section. And the JLPT didn't do it right. And so all of this was explained to them by my wife in native Japanese, and their constant refrain was, we just have a blanket no refund policy, and we will pass along your comments up the ladder. So
Great.
our superiors will hear about it, but ultimately they wouldn't take ownership of how they messed it up. And so for me, this is pretty big because anyone who's known me over the last 3 years in my efforts with the JLPT knows that I'm a yearly JLPT taker, and I've
Yeah.
taken 5 of them at this point. And my standard is I take it every single summer, and I've dipped into some winters because of scheduling and stuff, but it's every summer until I die or pass the one. That was my lifetime plan. So they had probably another 40 JLPTs they were going to get out of me because I'm never going to pass the one,
Yeah. I was gonna
but I
say
would have taken it.
you got a long time.
Yeah, exactly. I would never pass the one, but I was locked into it. Like, it was my monomaniacal obsession to
Gotcha.
keep doing it every summer, and they would have gotten 40 more fees out of me. But because they couldn't acknowledge that they did such a poor job, I lost trust in the organization and their ability to put on a good test.
Right.
And until they pay me the money back and take ownership for how they messed up, then I can't take it again. I just can't take it. Why would I go take something that has been proven to me to be unreliable in that way?
Yeah.
So I am officially, like you were saying, I just took the JLPT for the last time.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the five, I'm done with the JLPT. it's off my list now. It's not something that I'm concerned about. It's not fully a scam because they do it correctly sometimes, but my problem is I can't differentiate between when it's going to be a good version of the test and when they're going to mess it up drastically.
Right.
So the JLPT is about half a scam to me at this point. I think that they don't have a good reputation as far as I'm concerned, and I wouldn't send them my money. I wouldn't trust them to administer a fair test. And
Yeah.
I will recommend this to anyone for the rest of my life that I talk to about the JLPT with, and I will never take it again until they contact me and say, no, you were right. Here's your money back, or we're going to pay for you on the next one. We admit it. If they do that, I'll switch. But it's their policy not to do that. So I've got a lifetime of bad mouthing them, I guess, ahead of me.
Yeah. Yeah. So look forward to that segment going weekly.
Yeah, weekly. We've got an anti sponsorship here, and it's the JLPT.
No,
Please do not send them your money.
I've said this before. It's just, it comes down to a lack of competition for them and their ability to not need to change anything.
Yeah.
Like they just have this shitty test that they have deemed is the way that things should be done, regardless of how the test takers view it or even do on it. It's and then even afterwards, it's like they don't care because they don't show you any of the answers that you got wrong and ways that you can improve. So their goal is not to actually produce Japanese speakers; it is just to get your money.
Yeah, I have come around to that opinion. You said that when we talked about it the first time that it is a lack of competition, and I
Mm,
had never really considered that before. But yeah, I think competition would be necessary, and there would have to be some like honest way to register complaints with them. And I
right,
think a lot of what they're skating by on, which we talked about at the time, is that they're administering the test to kids who are probably 17, 18, 19 years old, and they don't have an expectation for what a good test is,
right,
and they're just sort of shunted into the test by whatever program they've signed up to join to come to Japan in the first place. And part
yeah,
of that program is, oh, take the JLPT and try to pass it, and then you can move up a class or whatever it is.
yeah,
And so it's this necessary hurdle that everyone has to get over in their shoes. Not for us, we're just sort of doing it to gauge progress. But for those kids, it's a necessary component of their, like, the progress of their education. And then they don't speak Japanese either. And so you're saying, like, call this number and complain, like, and no one's going to do that for several reasons.
right,
And so they've kind of isolated themselves in that they're the only test, and they've isolated themselves from criticism. And it's really, I think, that can only lead to an erosion of the quality of what they produce in the end. And that was evident to me in this last time, like it had never been before. And so I'm off it.
yeah,
They're dead to me now.
yeah. I think from my first experience, just seeing their lack of concern for how anybody does in the test or whether they pass or fail, yeah, I'm never doing
Yeah.
it again.
Yeah. And I should say that I'm open to it if they like somehow reach out to me and actually apologize and reimburse for a poor test and admit it, then I'll be like, yeah, cool. But that's just about like, I don't know, the massive company that's beyond reproach, like reaching down and say, oh yeah, we were overcharging you. Here's your money back on that. It's not going to work out. Or like Apple saying like, oh yeah, we did program our phones to fail, sorry. And it doesn't come from them. They're never the ones to instigate that sort of thing.
Right.
So all I can do is encourage everyone to just avoid the JLPT at all costs until they like buck their ideas up a little bit.
Well, don't hold your breath.
Yeah. And also don't hold your breath.
Well, on that note, maybe we can move on to something a little bit lighter,
Yes,
like
sir.
dad jokes.
Oh my goodness, yes, let's.
Okay. I hear you have another DIY dad joke that you'd like to try out.
Yeah, this is I made this one by myself at home, out of spare parts that I gathered learning Japanese. Okay, so again, there's a few moving parts here, and I'm going to have to ask it in English, and then the answer is Japanese.
Okay.
This is surefire success for a joke. This is how you do it. Okay. What did the chicken say when he found some moss?
I have no idea.
Koke koko! Anybody?
I mean,
Anybody?
it's funny in the way that you say it. I've got no idea why.
That's
it's
half
funny.
the battle. So, koke is moss,
Okay.
and koko means here. Here's the moss. Koke koko. And
Okay.
koke koko is Japanese for cock-a-doodle-doo. It's what roosters shout out at dawn. They say koke koko. So what did the chicken say when he found some moss? He said, koke koko, you're welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
All right, that's my dad joke.
Nice.
What do you got, Mark?
I just learned this today, but that is the perfect oyaji gag.
Yeah, oyaji gagu. Old man joke.
Well done.
Exactly.
Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Mine are a little easier to understand.
Okay, good. What an underhanded slam of my perfectly good dad joke. Okay.
It's not an underhanded slam of your joke, but of my Japanese ability.
Okay.
Okay. How do you make 7 even?
How do you make 7 even? You remove the S.
Damn it, that was too easy.
Boom! Nailed it. That was real time, everybody. Don't edit that, Mark. Don't put like a big pause in there. I got it straight away.
Okay.
Nailed it.
Okay, next one. This one's seasonal.
Oh, good.
What do you call it when a snowman throws a tantrum?
I don't know. No idea. What is it?
A meltdown.
Go! Wonderful. That's
Nice.
good stuff.
Okay,
Seasonal.
I got a couple more.
great.
But these are
All right.
These are dated, or at least this one's dated. So we'll see how this goes.
All right.
I got carded at a liquor store, and my Blockbuster card accidentally fell out. What did the cashier say?
Block busted? I don't know. What did he say?
Never mind, sir. You're old enough.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I was thinking like on two fronts, like when did you get carded at a liquor store? And then secondly, Blockbuster? Yikes. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Okay, last one. What did one hat say to the other?
No idea. What did one hat say to the other?
Stay here. I'm going on ahead.
Okay.
Okay, we're done.
Very well done. Dad jokes there. Yeah. Share your own dad jokes with us on Twitter, please.
Yeah, if you have better dad jokes, please let us know, because otherwise these are just going to keep coming.
It's up to you to stop this, audience members.
Thank you for listening today. We hope this week's episode was, again, informative and interesting. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to us on Twitter at jpopspodcast or by email at info@thejpops.com.
My closing today is that I'm sorry to go out on a negative note like this, but I am JLP-T'd off right now.
Ooh,
Furious. Take it easy, everybody. Later.